Good afternoon. I'm Scott Bratton, a partner at MJB Immigration.
And I'm Jessica Larson. I'm of counsel here at MJB Immigration.
Today we're going to talk about I-94s. We're going to talk a little bit about what an I-94 is and some tips that we have for people that have I-94s and some other general information that we hope will be helpful.
First of all, I'd like to note that Scott and I both do mostly removals, so it's highly ironic that we're talking about I-94s because many of our clients in removal proceedings don't even have one. But it's important to understand what they are, and so we're going to kind of give you guys some more information about that. So I have a couple little examples here about what is an I-94. So the first thing to show you is this little card. This is just a copy, but it's about that size, little white card. And for a long time, that's what everybody got, was one of these cards if they were getting an I-94. But within the last 10 years or so, I can't remember exactly when, most I-94s have switched to online. So you actually go in and get it online, and it looks something more like this, okay? But an I-94 the purpose of it is to show your legal status in the United States and information about your entry into the United States. And each time that you enter the United States, you will get a new I-94 with a new number. And typically the I-94 has 11 characters. So here you can see all of those numbers right there. And then here on the online one, you can see all of the numbers right there. So those numbers, as in much of immigration, your numbers are very important. So Scott, who gets an I-94?
Well, someone that gets an I-94 would be someone that enters on the United States on a non-immigrant visa. If someone's coming in on a visitor visa, a J1, a student visa, they're going to get an I-94. Additionally, people that are paroled into the United States will get an I-94. People who are granted asylum in the United States will get an I-94 card that's issued by USCIS. And then if you get an approval notice, say an H-1B approval, there'll be an I-94 attached to that as well. Additionally, someone that comes on a visa waiver program gets a little bit different I-94W, which is a little bit different than the regular I-94. So who doesn't get an I-94 card?
Who doesn't get an I-94? Well, if you're a U.S. citizen, you don't get an I-94 because you're coming into your own country, as well as green card holders. They don't get an I-94 when they enter. And there is a little bit of a tricky one that I honestly only just learned about a few years ago because we're not down by the border, but when you're crossing, especially the southern border with a border crossing card, sometimes you don't get an I-94 if you're just going within a short distance of the border. And then, of course, there are many of our clients, especially that enter without inspection, right? So they've crossed the border in some manner without seeing a border patrol officer and presenting their documents. Those people, after they get in here, typically do not have an I-94.
So the importance of the I-94 is really the information on that I-94 because it tells you how long you're able to stay in the United States, and it also tells you what status you're in. So it's important to look at the I-94 card. You can figure out, okay, this is my date that I have to leave the United States by or file some sort of extension by, and this is the status that I've been admitted to the United States in.
And just like Scott's telling you, here on the online one, you see the class that you're admitted on, and then here we'll give you the date or the duration of status that you're permitted to stay.
I think one of the issues that we see sometimes is people come to our office and they say, my I-94 says I have to leave by next week, but my visa is good for 5 more years. Why? When do I have to leave? Can I really stay for 5 more years? And what do you think about that, Jessica? What do you tell people when they come and tell you that?
This is truly quite confusing. So if you look at the visa that's inside the passport, often, like Scott said, it will be good for 5 or 10 years, and if it has a little M, it's good for multiple entries, right? But typically, especially if you're entering as a visitor, you'll be given 3 or 6 months to stay, and your I-94 will tell you need to leave by that date. Your visa might not expire for many more years, but you still have to leave by the date on your I-94 in order to comply with your terms of status.
And yeah, that's very important, and it's something that confuses a lot of people because we get that question frequently, and people say, well, I should be able to stay because my visa is good for this period of time. And people sometimes are confused and have overstayed their visa when they come and they overstayed their I-94, when they come and talk to us and they say, well, I'm allowed to stay this long. You have to break the news to them that no, you're not. You've actually overstayed your visa, and you're now in unlawful status here in the United States. So one of the things that you see on an I-94 card is most of them have a date certain by which you have to leave, but there's also some that have a D/S, or duration of status, and that's student visas, J visas have that. And what that means is that you're allowed to remain in the United States while you're complying with the terms and conditions of that status. So when you see that, you have to still you're allowed to stay for duration of status, which is, say, for example, the duration of your student status in the United States. So that's what the D/S stands for. So if I'm looking for information on my I-94, I came to the United States recently, and I'm looking for information on my I-94, where would I find that?
So, if you came to the United States a very long time ago, you might have a paper I-94. Or there are occasional exceptions where you might still get a paper I-94 today. But like I said previously, most of the time you find it online. And that's at a website. The Customs and Border Protection has a website for I-94s. If you search I-94, you can get to it pretty easily through Google. There's also a mobile app for CBP that you can go onto. And what it does is it asks you information, your name, your birth date, your passport number, and the country that issued your passport. And so you put all of that information into the website and you click search, and then hopefully up comes your most recent I-94 with all the information you need about your entry. You do have to be careful. If it says, oh no entry found, go back and look, because maybe you entered a number wrong or whatever, that happens sometimes. And then the other thing to be aware of is on that same website where you can get a copy of your I-94 online, you can also get a copy of your travel history and the government's records for your entries and exits for, I believe, the last 10 years.
Yeah, and if you do that, then you can figure out if that matches up to the records of the times that you've come in and out of the United States to make sure that's accurate as well. Sometimes we encounter situations where people contact us where the information on the I-94 card is wrong. And so in those circumstances, if it's an I-94 when you came to the United States and was issued by CBP, you would have to contact them. You can contact them through the deferred inspection site or the port of entry where you came into. If it's through USCIS, then you have to deal with USCIS, and it might require an I-102 form or a situation maybe you can get something done with them other than that, but otherwise you may have to file an I-102 form to get the corrected I-94. One of the circumstances that we see every once in a while is where someone lost their old I-94. They came to the U.S. a long time ago and they've lost the I-94 card. They're now married to a United States citizen and they want to adjust their status. And in order to adjust your status, you have to be inspected and admitted or paroled. So that I-94 is extremely important. In those cases, that person can go back and file an I-102, and we've done that quite frequently, and we've been able to get the old I-94 card and proof that they actually were inspected and admitted and came to the United States on a visitor visa. So there is a way, if you've lost your old, when you had a card and it wasn't electronic, and we see that every once in a while where someone came to the United States a long time ago, married to a U.S. citizen, and they need that old I-94 card, you can't get it through a 102. Another circumstance we see is, what happens if, maybe I came as a visitor and I can't leave by the time that I'm supposed to leave. I'm supposed to leave in October, but something came up and I can't leave. One thing you can do is you can file an extension of your status with USCIS. So if you can't leave by that time, don't overstay your visa and just say, well, I'm just going to stay anyway. It's no big deal. I'm just going to overstay it by maybe a month. Make sure to file a timely extension of status. Another situation that we see is someone that comes in on a visa waiver and then they're to the point where they can't get an extension. So they're coming up to the end of their time and something comes up and they can't leave. We had this come up a lot with COVID. Sometimes there's an illness or something, but you can't get an actual, you can't file with USCIS to get an extension. The one thing you can do is what's called satisfactory departure. and so you can contact CBP or USCIS and get a 30, where in essence is an extension, a 30-day extension, but it's not done the same way as you would extend a visa normally. You have to get satisfactory departure. So there is a way to extend your stay in the United States, even on a visa waiver program, but it's a very short period of time that you're able to do that. One last thing that we just want to talk about is tips that we have as far as I-94s. Start your extension requests early. If you're in non-immigrant visa status and you are going to want to extend your status, it's taking USCIS an extremely long time to adjudicate those requests, so make sure to file your requests early, if possible up to 6 months in advance of the expiration, because of the time that it's taking. The other thing that we tell everyone is when you've made an entry into the United States, check your I-94 online. Every time you travel, it's very important to do that, to make sure that that record is correct, and if there's any issues, correct it then, not waiting down the road when you're applying for something else and you realize they didn't record my last entry properly. So every time you travel, get on that website and check the I-94. It's easy to do. It'll just take a couple of minutes, but it may save you a lot of headaches down the road. So if anybody has questions about I-94s or anything else, how would they contact us, Jessica?
Well, you can call our office, 216-328-9878, or you can contact us through our website.
And also, please feel free to log on to our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram as well. We have a lot of cool stuff on Instagram, and we post a lot of really informative stuff on immigration on Facebook on a daily basis.
See you guys later. Thanks
Have a
for
great
joining
weekend.
us.
Thank you.